Okay, so a day's gone by, 24 hours, and our primer is perfectly dry. If you noticed I mentioned it as I was painting, I noticed there was a little bit of dust particles on the flat areas. So what I've got is just a little scrap of, get that in focus, there we go, just a sponge sander in the tweezers, and then what you can do is just gently, it's quite a worn sponge, but just gently go over the flat panel of the model. You're not looking to burn through the primer coat, all you're looking to do is knock out any dust particles that might be trapped in the layer of paint. And the beauty is, because we're working with small pad and small areas, we can get around every part of the tank. Even the individual armour panels. On the top surface of the turret in this area was, I noticed it in this area the worst, so I just want to gently burnish it up. As I say, we're not looking to tear through the paint, all we're looking to do is knock off any bits of dust or fine hair particles that happen to be caught on the flat upper surfaces. Fine, and what we can do is take the airbrush and just blow any dust. Right, so we're now ready for top coat. I mentioned that my IDF paint of choice, I've got a little bit pre-mixed here. Get that in the frame, there we go. Sinai Gray, circa 1980, is a mix of 50-50 mix of Tamiya XF 20 and XF 49, so medium grey and khaki grey. Now, there's loads of variations.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
There's loads of variations on the on how to do it. This is how I like to do it, and you can use any different colour you like. You know, some people like to do black and white technique. Some people like to do just all over colour and then go into post shading. I usually tend to like to paint with one colour and then build up the layers, highlights on the high panels, and then fade it down to the shadows at the bottom of the panels. But what I thought I'd try and do for this build, something different, is use a really oddball colour. You'd maybe think an oddball colour to do some pre-shading highlights. Tamiya XF4, and that is yellow green, or zinc chromate green. Now, I hear you saying, goodness me, why you want to do that? Well, if you think about it, the khaki does have some elements of yellow in. So you're going to naturally get a highlight with this colour into that colour. I'm not talking about putting oodles and oodles of this paint down, we're talking just highlights in the areas we want to raise up. And if we look back to that, it's going to work well. Now the other one you could use is buff or deck tan to offer a highlight for that, but it's quite a light colour anyway. Yes, it's going to get darkened down going over the NATO black, but if you want to get that sharp contrast, go a bit edgy, get a colour in. So what I'm going to use is my Hadron Steenbeck Infinity CR Plus, and this is the 0.2 needle nozzle setup. I changed the colour cup for the 5mm cup off an Evo, works well, gives you a bit more control, and me being a clumsy fella that I am, it saves me spilling paint everywhere. So, as of before, paint, good shake, and then always brush in the pot and stir up, because you want to agitate that settled pigment in the bottom of the colour paint pot, and make sure you get pigment lumps from around the rim, because you don't want to be pouring a lump of pigment off the rim into your airbrush. Now, in an ideal world, you'll have a little shot glass or a mixing tray, and you'll mix in there and everything will be happy and fine. That's an ideal world. Me, I mix thoroughly in the pot, and what you can do with Tamiya pots is enough space in the head of the pot to actually pre-thin the paint, actually in the paint pot. With your X20A, I use X20A with about 1% Tamiya acrylic retarder. So thin the paint in the actual paint pot to start with, which will help break up any thick stodge you've got in the bottom from settlement, so you've got a nice smooth paint colour. Now, I don't want it to be a thick paint, I want there to be a lot of opacity. I don't want it to cover in one go, I just want to add a highlight to the centre of the panels in areas I want to lift. So I've probably got a mix in the colour cup of the airbrush of around about 70% thinners, 30% paint. So there we go. Now, just test spray, coming out nice and thin, well controllable. And then what we need to do is just start at one side and work our way there. Now, I can take these off because that will give us more access to the roof. Now, you've got to imagine when these vehicles are painted, they're painted all over one colour. They don't have highlights, lowlights, panel line shading and washes and that. They're painted one solid block colour, and then they get weathered, covered in dirt, dust, rain, again, smoke, fumes, soot. So what we need to do when we're painting a model is we want to think, where's the high traffic wear area is going to be? So you've got hatches here, you've got steps here, you've got front fenders. Where's the crew going to get up and over and clamber? Where is going to get sun bleached? Where is the rain going to hit and wash off all the dirt areas? It's obviously going to be the flat areas. So that's where we'll start, and it's good to start in those areas because it gives us an opportunity to get the feel of how the airbrushes work and how the paint's going down, and then make any adjustments before we go in to put fine detail in. So all I'm doing is, you can see, just random splotchy paint, and we don't want a uniform colour, we just want this randomness, because in reality that's what will happen. You get scratches, scuffs and whatnot on the hatches. On tops of the springs. That's it. There we go. No more than that. You do need to leave some darker shades there because you need that for when you want to get your shadows built in. So we'll go on the back here and start shading these panels in here. Working in the centre of the panel, dotting it around. And then if you want to blend it, just put a light colour over it. We'll get those rails tops. Okay. Going to paint the tops of these rose covers. They're definitely going to get worn down with the heat. Air filters. pure filters, filler points, anywhere that's going to be, even the high little details of that will raise it up a little bit. Add interest, add contrast. And contrast is what you want. As contrast makes your model stand out. Now, likes of all these aerial mounts and gun pintles, you could just do from the top down. A little coat on them like that. Pay attention to the centres and then run it over the top. And that will give you your highlights. The tops of the view imports. Okay, we'll do the tops of smoke charges. Right in the centre, like that. There. Right, then we need to think about these armour panels here. Now, you want to start at the top and then feather it down. You don't need an awful lot. Panels there. Now if you think you're getting a bit of tip dry, just blow it through or wipe it off. Right, individually pick out these panels here. And some of the structure here. Tops of the light guards and the lights. We get in here, we get the panel underneath. Just change the orientation of where the vehicle is so you can get the paint, the airbrush working for you. Here, so you want a highlight at the top, low light at the bottom. Right, on to this side here. Solid highlight there, right at the top. Feather it down. We'll start here, so solid at the top, feather it down. Pick out the high points here and track guards. Side of the smoke canisters. There's just a bit of shading in there. Right, side skirts. There we go. So the raised detail, you can go for it and get that highlighted because that will some bleach and shade. And then what you want to do is just at the top, do that. You want the strongest at the top. naturally start to create shadow. Do the same along here. Do the other side. So here on the top, and then the raised pieces on the joins. Dark colour across the top. And sometimes you can see here, let the colour drift down the panel a bit, so it creates that sort of shaded area and gives you a little more highlight deeper into the panel. Quickly do the outside with smoke discharges, and then you want to do just the reverse of the panels here on the inside. If you can see that really well. Just along the top. You want to do tops of the arrows, just go straight down. Right in the centre there, you want a good highlight there because that's the highest point. And I think we're nearly there. We'll just check the back, the rear turret. We'll just do on the steps. Get that to focus. Focus now, so just on the edge of the steps there, and the tops of the cute comms boxes, and the rear fender guards there, grab handles, and along the back bar there. Lovely. We now have a pre-shaded tank and hardly used any paint. Right, let's get the colours changed over, and this will be where the fun starts. Oh, excuse me, let's do this to the armour plate. So, get that moved to one side. You can see this here, so you want to do the top bar just on the top, and along the edges, right there with the highest colour. You've got the top of the window in there, you want that high, and then and a lot more shadow underneath. And then it's kind of the reverse on the inside because of the angle of the plate. You want it darker on the top of the plate and then lighter shadows on the bottom. So light shadow there where the sun's going to hit and then bleed it up. There we go. Do the front plate, same again. On the bottom. There we go. Splendid. We are definitely done now. So let's empty out the colour cup and we'll change the colours. And I must admit, I am one of these modelers that tries to be a little bit frugal, so I'll just thin down what's in the colour cup to wash out, give it a stir around, and then pour it back into the paint. And that way I'm trying not to lose much paint because the price of everything's going up and you want to make your paint go as far as it can. Right, it's just a quick colour change. So what I'm doing is get a kitchen towel, wipe out the bulk of the excess of the colour, so there's not much left in the cup. A little swirl with a brush just to agitate what paint is left in there, and then blow it out in the spray pot. is good enough for our next paint colour. Now, I happen to have some Sinai Gray already mixed. If I can get it in frame, there we go. So, get a good shake up. It's pre-mixed and it's pre-thinned, so it can go straight in the colour cup. As always, even though I've pre-mixed it, pre-thinned it, still give it a little stir with the brush, because we want to make sure the pigment is agitated and it's in the carrying medium properly. Right, get it poured in the colour cup. This is hopefully where the magic happens and my theory of pre-shading works out. Just put a little bit of thinners in there and give it a shake up. It has thickened up a little bit. Get that extra little bit of paint in there because we might need it, you never know. Right. Kitchen towel just to test the airbrush, blow through whatever all colour is, and there we go. Okay, so now let's just put down a light coat of dusting over the whole model and see what we get. Okay. Wow. That's working quite nicely. And if we want to highlight any areas more, we concentrate the paint in that particular area. Happy with that. There we go. See that lovely mottled finish now. That in itself is going to work wonders for us when we come to weathering, because we're already getting the contrast built into the paint layer. And I really am not putting much paint down at all. Just a very, very fine layer, and it goes to show how, you can see that on camera, that yellowy green isn't showing through, it's just showing through as a highlight. So it's not really altering the colour too much. So let's go and lay a coat down here. There we go. Now, one area that I've obviously missed is the outside of these panels. Not to worry, because we can do the same effect using the single colour. So let me just finish painting over here, if I can get that in frame. There we go. Is it going to focus on me? Yeah. Now, as before with the primer, we're going to use the tank to our advantage to not paint any sensitive areas, but it's not such a problem, purely because this is the right colour for touching in. So what we're going to do is just get rid of that fingerprint there, and we can put a mottling effect in there. If we want, we can put a little extra mottling under the front glasses plate. So just tie on the bottom of those armour plates there. There we go. Right, you want to actually make sure we get underneath here. We don't have overly light, but we don't want to not paint it. It does need to have a hint of colour on it. Okay, right, let's get the side armour plates done. Finish off the start discharges. Make sure you get the middle bar done down the middle of them, because that middle bar there needs to be Sinai Gray. And whilst we're rotating the tank, we're just making sure we've not missed any areas that need to be Sinai Gray. So, following the same principle as we did before with the highlight colour, we're now going to go in with the actual main colour, and you want to go along the top, and then just flicking the paint down, concentrating on the raised detail down the panel line. And I am not using very much paint at all. Paint's well thin, so it's flowing well. You just want to get that impression of having shadow at the bottom of the panel plates. And believe you me, when you put streaking on, you put a pin wash on here, and you put streaking on, because you're painting down the way, you're naturally creating shadow under the raised detail, which is what would happen in real life. You get shadows from the sun as it comes down the way. So it'll help you no end in finishing the model with your weathering washes. Now here we haven't put any of the light green, chromate green colour. It doesn't matter, because we can get the same effect using just the Sinai Gray mix we've got. So concentrate on the top edge of the brush. You want very thin, controlled paint going down. And you can see that graduated colour following down the panel. And then with a flicking motion, you want to just focus on the top, flick down the panel. There you go. You can see that beautiful shading there. If it's too strong, if you're not happy with it, just give it another coat. There we go. So you've still got a nice bit of shading, but you've got the colour on the top. As I said, just build it up until you're happy with it. If you want it a stronger colour, bring the airbrush in a bit, you get a thicker paint layer. Yeah, happy days. I'm happy enough for that. Now, let's get the other side done. So, focus at the top. on that edge, and then on the high parts, the raised details, and then feather it down. And you're just flicking that paint down the panel, always starting from the top of the panel and go over the top of the panel, just to highlight those accentuated areas. And you see the shadows forming on the lower parts of the panels. That's what we're wanting. If there's anywhere it's too stark with a shadow, you can just go over it. If you look at that side panel, got a lovely bit of shadow underneath the step. That's just been naturally created by the airflow being broken up by the step in place. Now me personally, I'm going to leave that because I think that looks really good. And once we get our weathering washes and stuff in it, it's going to be even more enhanced. Now if you think the shadows are too stark underneath these raised pieces, change the angle and then just give it a light dusting over. Pull the airbrush back so you're not laying down loads of paint, just to tone it back. Do the same on the other side so it matches in. There we go. Right, let's check all the details. I've got the masts to paint in. Dusting underneath the mast so I can get it in frame, helps. There we go, a little dusting underneath the plates. Make sure we get underneath the back panels where the fuel tanks are stored. Right, now here's the fun bit. Let's clip some of this paint back into the pot. So really all we've got in here now is what's left of the paint, just a milliliter, half a mil if that. Thin it. And then we're going to get some X20, the grey, just to help lift the highlights and make it a little bit more punchy. In fact, no we're not. I'm always doing this. I'll better finish painting the upper armour panels first. Otherwise it's all going to be a mismatch. So just a bit of backflowing and let's paint the armour panels. So same as before. There we go. Get the colour on there. Highest point of colour. Paint's a little bit thin now. We've put quite a bit of thinners in. Dry back. There we go. And you naturally want the shadow to fall underneath the window. You want the dark spot there, which is what we've got. Perfect. Turn it over. Focus on the bottom, on the sides, and the nearest colour in the top. You want the strongest colour in the bottom of the armour plate. Nice bit of shadow underneath the window. Set it on its back to dry. Now acrylics are great because they dry really quickly. If you've got a bit of a run, don't worry, just go over it again. That's how you want it. Perfect. Well, I'm happy with it. Of course, I say that's how you want it. You need to paint the model how you like. This is what I like, but you need to paint it how you like it. Focusing on the top. Highlights, and we'll tip the panel and let it bleach down underneath a little. The bulk of the shadow being underneath the window. and you want these edges here, because they are a bend, to be quite naturally highlighted. Top of the window, across the top, start with this bend, and let the colour bleed down. Now in the shadow to be under the window. As I said, it's going to help us no end when it comes to oil washes and whatnot. Turn the panels over. This will be a difficult one for me to film so you can see. So in the bottom, this colour's in there. Same again on this side, on the bottom. Right, happy days. Now, colour back in there now. So, as I was saying before, I'm going to do a last little bit of highlighting. We'll get some of this X20 grey, and we need a brushful. That's all. So, stir it up. This is a number 4 Daler and Rowley round brush. So that's how much paint it holds. A little bit of thinners in there, just to make sure it's a nice thin translucent coat. We do not want to overkill this because you'll make it too stark. So blow through, there's our lighter colour coming through. So just very finely because this is a really thin paint, sometimes it can be a little over much. If there's any of this sort of yellow showing through, this will help just blend it out. Blow it to there. Blend it back so we don't have such stark demarcations. There we go. Same again on the front. And on the fenders. And there we go, I even managed to get a glove print on that. So I might be able to get rid of that with this paint colour. Yes, we are. So, focusing on the top of the panels. Right, now finally, turn it a little bit more. Turn the air pressure down a little bit more. And what we're wanting, a bit of backflowing. Make sure the needle's clean. What we want to do is we actually want, if we hold the airbrush well away from the model, we want to unify all the different colours. So we're just spraying down this very, very thin paint at low air pressure, so it's not putting a lot down. And that will act to naturally highlight and blend all the colours together. Now, if we look here, I missed a bit on the back, so we can rectify that. It's not a problem. Put in with this paint. So there we go, we've now finished that part. And there we can highlight. There. The back panel here. So just gently bring it all together, and it will be slightly spattery in its finish because it's low pressure, so it's not atomizing the paint properly. So you'll get that more diffused look. That's it. We are painted. There we go. That has taken us 40 minutes and we have painted an armoured vehicle. It's not taken hours, it's not taken days, it's taken roughly 40 minutes. Happy days. Right, I am going to clean up the airbrush and then we'll come back on to me just for a final sum up before we let it cure up, and then we look to do some detail painting on all the small detail parts. So, see you in a moment. So there we are. I've taken time to unmask and I'm really quite happy with how our paint has turned out on a Nagmachon, and that literally was real-time painting. It's taken us less than an hour to achieve a really nice overall tonal varied paint finish on this model. So what's next? Well, next will be detailed painting. We've got to paint in things like the smoke grenades. We need to paint in grab handles because they're usually painted in a red colour, and we need to pick out any other details that we think needs to be lifted. If we need to paint in some individual highlights, if you want to paint in scratches and wear and tear, then we can do that. I'm not probably going to do that on this model. We'll focus on the detailed painting, and then we'll look at oil pin washes, panel washes, and general weathering to get a good used look on it without it being too beaten up. So that's it for this episode. Next episode, as I said, will be episode 5. We'll focus on the detailed painting, decals, and then episode 6 will be the weathering and final finish for this model. Thanks for watching. If you stuck to the end, really appreciate it. If you've got any questions about what you've seen in the video, put them down below. I'll always read them, always answer them, and I'm always grateful for folk to take the interest to write a question for what they've seen. And if you have any hints, tips, or suggestions you think you'd like to see me try, put them down below and I'll give it a go. So, till next time guys, happy modelling and stay safe.